Hello everyone, my name is Andrey. In the previous episode, or in one of the previous episodes, I mentioned that I am a dental technician with 10 years of experience. For about the last 7 years, I have been working exclusively with removable prosthetic constructions, like these ones. So, today I want to explain the main materials used to make removable dentures. And when you go to your dentist, make sure to ask them, just ask. Tell me, doctor, what kind of plastic do you use? Because very often they might be misleading you. I'm not saying this about everyone, but generally people who are not familiar with dental technology simply don't understand the differences between plastics. Because in reality, all dentures look more or less the same, especially as I'm showing in the video right now. Yes, they all look the same. Someone who doesn't know the details won't be able to tell the difference. Some have bigger teeth, some have smaller teeth, some are whiter, some are, like here, they're more yellow. So you really can't tell much just by looking. But as they say, the devil is in the details. And when it comes to health, these details are very important. What do I mean by that? There are basic plastics that are necessary for each type of application, for every construction. I'll explain briefly. Of course, I don't have all types of plastics. I have just the most common ones. For example, acrylic is used for full dentures. Acrylic is a type of plastic. Acrylic ones, then different companies make them. For example, Condulo, that's a Swiss company I work with, the one I use. Removable dentures without a palate. You can see how much has been removed. More or less, this is the only plastic that has performed very well without a palate. And actually, I probably started making palate-free dentures about 5 or 6 years ago, give or take. Because if you take standard acrylic, whether it's from Poland or Ukraine, it's just no good at all. They're very cheap and they're really bad when it comes to palate-free dentures. They're not suitable for palate-free dentures, and you can tell by the color. This plastic is more transparent, while that one is more matte. That one is just a more porous option, so it would simply break when used without a palate. So what's the point? There are also Acry-free materials, which are flexible. Acry-free has a flexibility of about 50%. There's also nylon, which has a flexibility of about 100%. Just so you understand, if we take acrylic, it basically has no flexibility, or its flexibility is, roughly speaking, about 5% or even 3%. That is, it can break the condylar, let's say, 3 to 5%. If we take standard acrylic, like the ones from Poland, China, Ukraine, and there's also Russian acrylic, but that's just a no-go. I haven't even heard of it. Well, I've heard of it, but I've never worked with it, and I don't want to work with it. Because Russia, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, has not yet proven itself in dentistry. Not at all, absolutely nothing. So this kind of standard acrylic is more transparent, as you can see. Its flexibility, as far as I understand, is probably about 1% or almost 0%, because if it falls on the floor or something, it will most likely just break. Condulor is a bit harder to break because it's stronger and has some degree of stretch, still minimal but more than here. And Crefree has a stretchability of 50%, so you can more or less play around with it a little. Nylon, in my observation, has a stretchability of about 80 or 90%. But all of these plastics have certain nuances. For example, when people get dentures made from nylon, because nylon is too flexible, when chewing, most people are used to chewing more on one side, and when a person eats with nylon, for example, one side sags more. There is more atrophy on that side than on the opposite one, and as a result, over time, the denture simply starts to wobble on the mucosa. This isn't right. I mean, for the first 6 months it's really nice and comfortable because it's soft and flexible. But atrophy usually progresses faster on one side than on the other. Atrophy slows down under strong pressure, under firm pressure on the bone. So there's a paradox. How can that be? If I press hard, it would seem that the bone should actually recede more, but it turns out that's not the case. In fact, when a soft material presses on the mucosa, atrophy progresses faster than when a hard material applies pressure. Because under firm pressure, our body works in this way. It senses that there is pressure, which means, in simple terms, that the bone is needed by the person. Probably now some doctors or dentists will criticize me. But guys, sorry, I'm a technician, and I explain things to people in simple terms. I understood it myself this way, and it was also explained to me in simple terms. I convey this in simple terms, not in some complicated anatomical or medical language. So the point is that when people wear nylon dentures, it's only comfortable for the first 6 months. But after 6 months, problems start. The denture begins to wobble, it just starts to move around. And the most frustrating thing is that nylon can't be repaired. It's impossible to fix it because it's a material that's injected as a single mass, injected into a mold all at once. And after that, it's simply impossible to add to the inner surface. It's very problematic, or even completely impossible. With these hard plastics, on the other hand, you can do it. In fact, you actually need to update the inner surface here. And these options without a palate, for example, the ones I work with, about once every 2 years, I simply refresh the inner surface for people, because the teeth themselves and the plastic are designed to last over 10 years. Of course, that's with proper care. And then we just update the inner surface every 2 years, and that's it. The person keeps using the same teeth they're used to. So look, here's another key point. There are different types of acrylics. These are all acrylics, types of acrylic plastics. This one is porous. Porous, kind of transparent. What is it made from? It's made from a liquid. There's a company called Acrylic, a liquid. It's a monomer. It's a very smelly methyl methacrylate, so-called it's really stinky. When you smell these plastics, it's unpleasant. A very strong, sharp odor when you buy the plastics. I'm a technician, so I buy it myself. They take a photocopy of my passport and certificate because it's required to be sold under such conditions. Supposedly for people who like to get high off these things, they either somehow, I don't know, just inhale the fumes or somehow synthesize them into some other bad substances. Let's not say that word, it ends with the letter N, you know, kitties. It's just that YouTube might then lower my views or something. That's why this is a very caustic substance. Plus there's the powder. You can see it, right? Here it is, the powder inside. It's extremely fine, just tiny. Honestly, it's like flour, probably. Here it is, the finest powder. So, you have the liquid and the powder, methyl methacrylate and polymethyl, or whatever it's called. I actually forgot the name. All of this is mixed together, brought to a certain consistency, applied, placed into a mold, a plaster mold. The flasks are closed, and everything is created inside there. It all takes on the shape that will later become the prosthesis. Well, of course, after processing, polishing, and other steps. This is how this material is made. So what's the downside of these plastics? It's that for some time this liquid remains in the prosthesis. It evaporates. Yes, it evaporates. And that's why dentists, I don't know if they've recommended this to you or not, but someone experienced once told me that I should tell people to always store these prostheses in water for the first little while. Because water draws out the residual monomer from them. Residual monomer simply poisons your body. It gets absorbed into the mucous membrane, and everything is absorbed there very strongly and actively. And there are nerves, blood vessels, it's a very delicate environment where everything gets absorbed quite intensely. And what happens then? Once, a woman, or one of them, called me and said, "Andrey, here's the situation. I'm sitting, drinking tea, I take a sip." She had her teeth done just a few days ago. I take a sip. I'm sitting there and I can't figure out what this taste is in my mouth, some kind of chemical. Apparently it's this one. She said she didn't understand. Well, okay, she didn't bother to think about the details. She takes another sip and realizes that it started to smell very strongly of chemicals, some kind of chemical. She says, "I take it out of my mouth, smell the denture, and it's the one that smells." And she came to me and said, "Please, make it from another plastic, one that doesn't smell." So the other plastic is this one. This is Condulor, the one I work with. Or there's also Wakap in Japan, or BPS also in Japan, different ones like that. There are several types of companies. These are all names, Condulor, Wakap, BPS, and so on. These are all company names. But the point is that this cloudy plastic, you can see that it isn't transparent. The point is that it is monomer free. Monomer is this liquid here. Liquid and powder. This is what you get. It's transparent like this. Monomer free means there is no liquid and no powder as such. There, the plastic comes in certain granules which are produced by the manufacturer and sent to us. We place these granules into a special machine that heats up the entire mass. These granules dissolve and become liquid, and then under pressure a compressor injects it into a mold. So it's a different manufacturing method. There's simply no liquid monomer there. And what am I getting at? The point is that it doesn't have any residual chemical effect on your mucous membrane. You make this material once, just once. That's exactly what I did for the woman whose denture smelled after drinking hot tea. I made it from this plastic and everything was fine. This plastic, it doesn't... You see, it's made from different components, so it doesn't have those residual chemicals. By the way, that's quite significant. Plus, I don't really know how all this might affect you. Honestly, I haven't looked into the details. Maybe it's worth understanding, but all of this poisons your body through the mucous membrane. And that's in addition to the main advantages, like being able to make a denture without a palate using this plastic. That is, it can withstand this pressure, and you can see by its color, yes, that it's more opaque, so here you can recreate it. Like this, the gum, the way the gum goes. You can also see the person's lip. You can see that the gum slightly protrudes over the roots, and it's as if the roots continue further in. But here, what do we see? Here we see just a transparent, almost translucent, smooth layer. The reason is that if I try to make any kind of waviness here, you simply can't see it. When a person smiles, these curves are practically invisible. And because this is such a translucent plastic, you can see the outline of the tooth here. You can see where the tooth goes, here it kind of ends, here it breaks off. You can see that, right? I think it's visible. Right here it just, bam, the edge. Transparent. Here this edge is simply hidden behind the gum. And it creates the impression that this is a more natural gum, more complete. Especially in the X-ray, it all looks very harmonious. For the reason that it's also moistened by saliva there. These teeth, of course, are more solid. So when you go to a doctor at any clinic, just ask, which one are you going to make for me? What material? And let them try to explain. And even if they said everything correctly and are making the one you agreed on, the monomer-free one, then you can easily check later, when the teeth are ready, by looking at how translucent they are. If it is translucent like this, and you can see these tiny veins inside, then it's either Acrylic-free, but in that case it will be flexible. It's also monomer-free, and that's all good. Or it's this kind of full one. It's rigid, it's not flexible. These full ones are made from this kind of material, acrylic. You can see that it's transparent, my fingers show through it. Acrylic-free, as a rule, is not used to make a full jaw, again because it's too soft. And this will lead to uneven atrophy. Acrylic-free is used for partial dentures. For example, when there are no front teeth here, or there are some missing teeth somewhere, or there are no teeth in the back. No, well, you get the idea. So Acrylic-free is used for partial options. For full dentures, they try to use these ones. That's all. Good luck to everyone. Write your questions in the comments.